Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm gonna try a little something different. Something I have talked about in the past, and since probably my most watched videos are UFC videos, I'm gonna stick to sports related for this channel since this Koopa Act don't really go into effect till January. So I am gonna leave some of my Funko Pop videos on the channel. But my live unboxings that I am doing today are on Facebook. So if you guys want to follow me, go follow the link below and go search out my page on my group page on Facebook. So I made a group page so I could do some live unboxings on there. But for this channel, it's gonna be more sports related from now on. So you won't see no toy. I still got my toys in the background, but that really don't mean anything because it's not going to be targeting kids. So I guess that's a certain way of me staying on YouTube. And I had talked about previously before about just like sports, and talking about UFC has always been one of my passions. So I guess you gotta just get with the time. So I mean, it sucks to say that, but I want to just keep doing this. I just don't want to just leave. And I know there are certain people who would definitely love to talk about sports, and I bring a lot of information to them. I was doing that with Funko. A lot of people don't know about Funko. A lot of new people who came and found the channel probably didn't know about Funko. So let's stick it to that. But as on Facebook, I'm sticking to that. As of right now, I'm just gonna stick to sports and talk about other things that interest me, and this upcoming UFC not pay-per-view, but it's a live UFC on ESPN. I don't even know what to call these. I think they call it UFC on ESPN, and they have the number. So this, I believe this is 7. So UFC on ESPN 7 is just a regular fight night, but technically it's not fight night. It literally makes no sense. But with the first fight, and these are the prelims. I'm not I'm not doing the early prelims. I'm just doing the regular prelims. So I am giving saying who is fighting, and then giving my basically my prediction, and a little bit information about some of the fighters. I'm definitely gonna like call out like some of the known fighters that I am familiar with, because there's a lot of new upcoming fighters that I'm not familiar with. So I'm not gonna give my initial thoughts on them. But with one of them is Bryce Mitchell for the first fight, and I go down from how UFC has it on the website. So it's from down to up. So from down it's like the first fight, to up is the main event. So Bryce Mitchell versus Matt Sales for the prelims, and I'm not familiar with both fighters. Bryce Mitchell is 11-0, and Matt Sales is 8-2. But if I do give my predictions, I'd probably give it to Bryce Mitchell. He looks like more the solid fighter. He has a lot of wins by decision. He has a few TKOs that I've seen. So I'm not familiar with both of those fighters, but I do give it to Bryce Mitchell. And there's a lot of times I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names. Like this one is Billy Quarantillo versus Chris Fishgold. Billy is 12-2, and Chris Fishgold is 18-3. I have seen both fighters. I haven't seen them fought, but I did watch some highlights, and I believe Billy might take that one. So I'll give the prediction to Billy. Now with the next couple, next fights that I am familiar with most of these fighters, and it's probably the most guy I'm familiar with is Tiago Alvis, who's 23-14, versus Tim Means, who's 28-11-1, no contest. So if you guys don't know, Tiago Alvis is a real pit bull, man. So I'm gonna just go down his notable wins and losses. He has lost to guys like GSP and has some big losses to John Fitch. He lost both of them to John Fitch. His last fight he actually lost, which was May 11th of this year, to Loreno Stripoli. But he does have big wins over guys like Josh Koscheck, Matt Hughes, who's a Hall of Famer, Carl Parasian, who's a really underrated fighter. Real savage in the ring. If you ask any guy who faced Carl Parasian, you guys, they'll tell you how much he was like, he was a wrestler, real dangerous on his feet, gave Nick Diaz tough times. I believe he fought Nick Diaz. Don't remember, it's been a while. And Chris Lytle. So he has beaten some real tough guys. But the guy he's fighting is Tim Means, and Tim Means lost his last fight also, which was March 9th, 2019 of this year against Nico Price. But he has some big losses too to some real notable fighters like Alex Oliveira, Matt Brown, and even Jorge Masvidal. He has big wins and pretty dominated Diego Lima. But as of right now, I might have to give it to, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough one because both fighters are a real good match against each other. I think Alvis is going to be the aggressor. I won't be surprised he tries to take it down. I mean Tiago's known for his power, but now that he's a little bit older, he hasn't really used his power. So I still give him the slight edge in the fight. So I'm gonna just predict Alvis on that one. So and then after, so what I like to do is after the event, the next day I like to go and give the results. So it's interesting. There's been a lot of times when I did this, a lot of podcasts that I did where I predicted something and then my predictions were completely wrong. I haven't got a lot of good fights right though. But anyways, with the next fight, it's the last fight of the prelims is Rob Font versus Ricky Simon, and that's a real underrated fight, man. I think that fight should be on the fight card. But really underrated fight because both fighters are real good savages, man. Ricky Simon, everybody knows him for his loss to Faber. Faber came out of retirement and starched him in the first couple minutes. But he's a savage, man. He's the future of the UFC. So let's see how he rebounds off of that loss. And then Rob Font got some notable wins too, man. Everybody, I mean, he's not a big name out there, but he has some wins over guys like Sergio Predis. He's beat him in a unanimous decision. He has wins over Thomas Almeida, who's a real good fighter too. His big notable loss is Pedro Munoz. But other than that, man, pretty good. Two solid fighters, and I'm gonna give the slight edge to Ricky. But I don't know how that one's gonna play out. That's kind of like a coin toss. So on to the next fight. So with the next fight, it is Carlos Condit versus Mickey Gall. And Carlos Condit is 30-13, and Mickey Gall is 6-2. Now, if you guys don't know Carlos Condit, man, you guys probably don't know UFC, because this dude has fought. I mean, I think he has lost to some of the best fighters in UFC and future Hall of Famers. And I could just go down the list of notable people he lost to. He is on actually a 4-fight losing streak, which is surprising. Normally in UFC, man, if you lose that many times, not too many times the UFC makes you stay. Most of the time you're fighting in Bellator after that. But he has lost to Michael Chiesa Oliveira. He has lost to Neil. He lost to Damian Maia. He lost to Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley. He has lost to Johnny Hendricks and GSP. And just with those names itself, I mean, he lost to the best of the best. So just keep that in mind. And but he has some big notable wins. He has beaten Tiago Alvis. He has beaten Nick Diaz. He has beaten Dong Young Kim, which everybody knows that famous knockout. He has beaten Rory McDonald, Jake Ellenberg, and Frank Trigg. But with Mickey Gall, he has big losses himself. He has lost to Diego Sanchez and Randy Brown. But everybody knows him for beating Sage Northcutt and then beating CM Punk. So it's going to be real interesting fight. I am going to give the slight edge over to Carlos Condit. So on to the next fight. Now, with the next fight on the card, I'm definitely going to butcher these names, and I'm not familiar with both fighters, so I'm not going to give my natural prediction, because if I do, it wouldn't be fair, you know, just for both fighters, because I don't know who they are. But I am going to definitely butcher this. Gerardo de Freitas Jr., who's 18-2, and Song Youngdong, who is 14-3 and 2 no contest. I definitely don't know these fighters. I'm not gonna give my natural prediction, but yeah, just leave it at that. So with the next fight on the card is Aspen Ladd, who is 8-1, versus Yaya Kuniskaya. I definitely butchered that. I am so sorry about butchering that, by the way. If you guys don't know Aspen Ladd, she has been people like Sahara Eubanks and Jessica Hoy. Her big loss was to Doraname, but in that fight she did show improvement. And she gave Doraname a good fight and good run for her money. And then it was that controversial loss, a fight that I did cover on the channel. It's probably my biggest watched video is that fight. I think people I got a couple dislikes because I think they were either clicking for the fight video or they were clicking for or they probably just didn't like my assessment on the fight or whatever. So. But anyway, Yaya got some good fights too. She's on a 2-fight winning streak, and she lost to Christine Justiano. But if I were to give it to somebody for this fight, I would definitely give it to Aspen Ladd, just because she's been showing improvement and she's going to be a future title contender in the future. So you gotta look out for her, man. She's on the up and coming. So Yaya could shock the world if she ends up beating her. So definitely a fight to look at the force on to the next fight. So with the next fight is Stefan Struve versus Ben Rothwell. Stefan is 29-11. Rothwell is 36-12. You guys should know these guys, especially if you've been following UFC for a long time. Stefan got some big wins and some big losses, and fought some real tough guys in the heavyweight division. He's beaten Bigfoot, Antonio Silva. He's beaten Nogueira. He has beaten Stipe, the champ himself, and Pat Barry. He's lost to guys like Junior Dos Santos, Roy Nelson, Travis Brown, Andre Arlovsky, Overeem, and who's the main event, and Hunt. So he has some big wins and big losses. So he has a lot of experience. And speaking of experience, you guys know I covered Rothwell before. Rothwell, but the thing about Rothwell is he didn't look too good in his comeback fight in the UFC against Arlovsky. I mean, it was kind of like, I mean, he tried, but it just wasn't an entertaining fight. So that's just gonna be interesting how this fight plays out, and I think that's a good matchup for him. it's gonna be another hard one for me to choose. But since how he fought in his last fight, don't remember the last time. I didn't mark down the last time Struve fought, but I'm gonna have to get the slight edge, and it's a real slight edge to Stefan, just because I think he's just the more experienced fighter. I mean, that's real hard to say because Ben Rothwell's an experienced fighter too. I'm just gonna give him the slight edge. And bad, you guys, if you guys haven't seen him fight, you guys should go watch some highlights of him. But yeah, but just leave it like that until the next fight. So on with the co-main event is actually two female fighters I am not familiar with. And it is Marina Rodriguez, who's 12-0-1, and Cynthia Calvivo, I probably just butchered that, and I'm so sorry, who's 8-1. Marina has beaten Jessica Aguilar and Tessa Torres her last fight and looked pretty good in that fight. And Cynthia is on the 2-fight winning streak. She lost to Esperas. So I'm definitely going to give the fight to Marina, even though I'm not too much familiar with both fighters. I mean, I did watch that fight where she beat Tessa Torres and she looked pretty good. But I'm not familiar with both of these fighters, so hopefully they put on a good entertainment fight. And like I said, kind of interesting co-main event for UFC to do. This fight card, if you look at it, just a lot of people coming back, trying to bounce back into the UFC. Real interesting fight card, but yeah. So now it's on to the main event, baby. So with the main event, you got Alistair Overeem versus a guy I'm definitely gonna butcher this name. It is Rosenstruck. Rosenstruck is his last name. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his first name. But you guys should know who Overeem is. Overeem is on a 2-fight winning streak. He has beaten Alexei Olenek. He has beaten guys like Mark Hunt, Mauricio Verdum, Roy Nelson, Junior Dos Santos. He has lost to guys like Curtis Blaze. We all remember Francis Ngannou, who took his soul. And then Stipe, he has lost to Stipe. Yeah, I still remember that fight like it was crazy. Just Francis just knocking him back. Just took his soul, and did record the hardest knockout or the hardest punch in history. It's crazy. And then Rosen, I'm just gonna shorten his name for Rosen because I definitely don't know how to pronounce his name. He has beaten Andrei Arlovski. His last fight, he has fought Andrei Arlovski. He's beaten Alan Crowder, and but he doesn't really have too many notable fights. Since he is 9-0, I believe they did make this fight real interesting because he did have a real good spectacular performance over the Pitbull Andrei Arlovski. So with my predictions on that one, I'm probably gonna have to go with Overeem on this one. But don't be surprised he gets don't be surprised he get caught in that fight, because even though the dude's not noticeable, he does have some real vicious power, man. And we've seen it in the Arlovski fight, man. So you definitely got to pay attention to that fight a little bit closer. Don't blink, because something might happen. Both, I hope he'll go out there and try to take down Overeem. I think if he's smart, he would do that, because Overeem is not really that good on the ground. But I see this fight standing up. I just don't see this fight on the ground. But with that being said, guys, this is just the end of this episode. Man, I haven't did a YouTube video in a while since I decided to switch over to Facebook for a little bit. But yeah, that's the end of this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Like I said, if you're looking for Funko videos, hop over to Facebook. As of right now, I'm just gonna stick on sports and talk about things that interest me the most. And mostly UFC. I'm gonna stick with UFC for now. But I am gonna talk about, like, because I am from Chicago. If you guys don't know me, this is a new introduction. I am from Chicago, so I do like to stick to Chicago sports. But if something catches, like something intrigues me or catches me, I definitely would like to talk about it. But other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. See you guys later.